Hello and welcome to this video. It's been a little while. I haven't been in the best condition to properly record a video, but better late than never, as they say. I'm just going to get started. I have expanded my base again after what feels like an eternity, but before we get into that, I want to cover a few small changes in other areas. The first change is I added beacons and a conduit to my end hub. There was a comment from that video suggesting I include them, and after thinking it over a bit more, I did. I didn't include the beacons in the original design because I thought they seemed a bit excessive given everything else going on with the build, and I do still feel that way, so instead I have an on-off switch for them. Down here, I have a note block just behind my ender chest here, and if I press, it turns off all the beacons as well as the conduit underneath. Now I can enjoy the benefits of the beacon's effects while fighting the dragon or wither, but I can turn it off for when I don't need them. The conduit, though, I never considered until it was mentioned to me. I was under the impression that the conduit effect didn't work unless you were completely underwater, but as it turns out, it does. Unfortunately, the only effects it gives are water breathing, night vision, and haste 1. The first two only work underwater, and haste doesn't have a ton of value given the location. Its only other effect is attacking nearby hostile mobs, which also need to be in contact with water. Overall, not a lot of value, but I decided to keep it anyway. If I soak the wither, it can still contribute to the damage. Something odd I noticed though, when the conduit is active, it has a weird visual effect on the end portal, so I turn it on and off with the beacons to avoid that. The next change is I cleaned up the mess outside the entrance. The creeper farm is still floating, unfortunately. I really need to get rid of it at some point, but it's good to have gunpowder, so for now it stays. And one last tiny update, I have a new villager, a Fletcher. This guy sells instant health arrows. I'm not sure what I'll use them for, but I figured they would be helpful for something in the future. If you have any ideas, let me know. Now for the main event. I've finally expanded my base after what feels like forever. This floor is for my industrial farms to help with larger projects in the future. On the left here, we have my stone generator. I've been meaning to rebuild this for a while. I think the last time this was seen was my very first video I posted about my base. I brought it back, of course, for stone, cobblestone, and basalt, especially the cobblestone. Something I was thinking about was a shulker box loader, and I even have most of it designed in a test world. It occurred to me that while this is the second floor from the bottom, it's the bottom floor for this half of the base, meaning I have a lot of space under the farm to build anything extra. I stopped short of actually building it, but I may add it later. I don't have that many shulkers for one, but I'm also a bit hesitant to completely AFK or I'd break a tool in the process. And just a quick demonstration, if you haven't seen this in action before, you just stand here, hold down left click, and mine the stone or basalt with the silk touch or or not fortune, but silk touch or non-silk touch will get you stone or cobblestone. And then if I flip the lever up here, it'll swap from the stone generator to the basalt. And everything collects in the chest underneath. And on the right here, I have an auto smelter, or I guess two auto smelters, one on each side. I had never built an auto smelter outside of modded Minecraft until now, and learned the hard way how temperamental they can be when you don't know what you're doing, which I clearly didn't. I'll start with the obvious stuff first. The output chests are at the front here, and the input for fuel is in the smaller chest right here, and the input for items is in the bigger chest right here. It automatically starts up when I put items in the chest. Both the fuel and items go running around, and the lamps at the back turn off. I can do this for both. They run independent of each other. The lights at the back were meant to tell me when everything is done, but instead they just tell me if the minecart is empty, which is fine because just seeing if the furnaces are on is enough to know if things are still smelting. I'm using charcoal as fuel at the moment, since it's renewable. I did have to chop a lot of wood to completely fill the system. That took a few hours. Originally, I imagined the furnaces would be in a sealed-off room, but decided to have them more accessible for both experience, to break the furnace and get the experience out, but also to replace them with blast furnaces or smokers if I needed more specialized smelting. Both sides are separate, as I said, and I could do combinations if I wanted. I won't be doing a tutorial for this, but there are probably thousands of smelter tutorials on YouTube, and mine has a few oddities. I am, however, working on a design for a mass smelter that unloads shulker boxes of material and repackages it when everything is finished smelting. I'll try to get that sorted at some point in the future. Oh, the light's turned on, which means the minecart is empty. So it's picked up all the material, and now we just wait for everything to finish smelting. And the output is at the chests in the front. And a little further down the hall, on the left, we have my Nylium Farm. Maybe you've already seen the tutorial I posted the other day, but here it is. Clicking the note block in the back activates the dispensers, and pressing the button up top will swap the Nylium from the warped to the crimson. If I break this slab here, you can see which block is underneath. Swap it again, just like that. I've actually made some small changes to this farm. There was actually a comment on the tutorial about the resource cost, and I completely agreed. I wasn't concerned about materials when I was designing it, but when I thought about it more, having it autofill bone meal seemed a bit excessive for a Nylium farm. So I removed all the hoppers and droppers, and instead I just need to manually refill the dispensers, which are already very accessible. I still get 252 stacks of Nylium before I need to refill, and I don't think I'll ever use that much anyway, so it all worked out. Also, let me know what you think of the carpet. I think it looks pretty good. And across the hall of the Nylium farm, we have the Roots and Fungus farm. This was the exact same farm I had sitting out front of my base. I moved it inside and made it look fancy. Found out nether plants can grow on mud blocks, which made collection easier since they're not a full block, but the color also fit well with the palette. It produces roots and fungus for my nether tunnels, of course. Bone meal goes in the chest on the right, but I have a chest on the left here for anything excess. So if I throw it in here, it gets composted and put back into the system. I actually have it set up to prioritize the bone meal produced through the chest on the left. That way when the farm is running, it doesn't consume the bone meal on the right, which, well, that's very helpful. And the buttons in the corners swap out which Nylium is underneath and which materials are produced. I also don't plan on making a tutorial for this. For one, it's not very efficient. I know of a few designs on YouTube that are incredibly fast. This is just a copy of my moss farm, which is the other reason. All the redstone from this is just carried over from the moss farm. And finally, at the end of the hall here, we have my semi-automatic tree farm. Right down here at the bottom. And I actually didn't have the energy to really put together a script for this last bit, so I'm just going to try and wing it. I'll take a look around real quick. You get an idea what's going on. I really love this room. I think it looks quite good, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Now, how this works is I grow a tree in the center. Any tree. It works with, to the best of my knowledge, any tree in the game. I've tested it on quite a few of them already, and depending on the size of the tree, I can go up one of these water columns and get on top, and then break the wood down through the center, and after that, I can flip a button and have TNT drop at certain heights. The brown, or I guess this is gray terracotta. It looks brown to me, but the gray terracotta button will drop TNT at the level indicated by the lights and the andesite walls. I have a lot of indicators around the room to help me judge distance, but that's where that button goes. The red button goes one up from that, around there, so on and so forth. Orange and yellow. I have a lamp up there that also turns on when any of the buttons are pressed. For this TNT duper, it's very important that I not press another button until the TNT that's being held up there has also detonated. Otherwise, it would break the entire thing. That's what the lamp up there is for, but usually I just listen for the sound when both of them are exploded. Also, there's a light. It causes... Maybe it's Optifine that does this. I'm not sure if TNT usually lets off light like that, but when that's gone, that's usually an indicator enough. I also have a lever I can hold down for an automatic drop of TNT. It's a few seconds delayed, which is very handy for when I need to then collect or do something in the center without getting blown up in the process. And it'll periodically drop another TNT like that. Then I can turn it off as well. I'll need to wait for the next TNT to finish, of course. And the lever only drops it at the first height, like the brown, or the brown button. I'm just going to call it brown. The process for this farm was very, very difficult, to say the least. I didn't really know what farm, or what type of tree farm I wanted. I didn't want anything too complicated, so I tried looking for more simple farms, which led me to Ian XO4's design. I thought it was very good, very clean, very simple. It covered a majority of the tree types. I didn't, however, like that it felt like it maybe wasted a bit of resources, but that's just me. So instead, I have this button system. This was actually inspired by, I think, Rendog, and it's a bit of a mix between Rendog, Etho, and Exuma. But yeah, I'm very happy with how this turned out. Most of the farming done here is for the nether trees, but also the mangrove trees. I've got two little cubbies here with chests for storage. I've already done quite a bit of farming with mangrove, and a couple other tree types I have down here. The acacia I've found to be easy to farm using the lever I have, the semi-automatic drop of TNT. That's what I use it for most. Dark oak, I'm not sure if it's really necessary to have it down here. Spruce is very easy to farm with this. And there's the mangrove, of course. And then jungle, I think the room is tall-ish enough for these. I haven't tested it much with jungle just yet, but yeah. And then on the other side, I have the netherwood storage. I also have a composter set up for any excess wart blocks I have. I can throw it in there and get some more bone meal out of it. Is there nothing in? Nope. I filled it up earlier with other things, but it seemed to have finished doing what it was doing. I've got some more storage for shroom light and stuff like that. Oh, I've got the Nylium here. I just swap out the podzol. Originally I had mud blocks here, but when I grew a tall spruce tree, I learned it actually converts mud blocks into podzol as well, which was a bit disappointing. I really like the new mud blocks. It's got a nice texture and color to it, so I was a little bummed out that I couldn't keep it around down here. I probably could if I didn't plan on farming spruce trees, but it is what it is. One last thing I want to talk about. I've been thinking a lot about how I would go about making videos for future projects that are much larger in scale. In the case of my end hub, it was 3 or so weeks between videos for that one build. I'm going to continue with community posts to update anyone who's interested about plans or changes, general things of that nature, but I wanted to do a bit more. I am considering live streaming as a sort of in-between. My thought process being I would stream the building process for my larger projects, and anyone who's interested in the progress can then skim through the VOD or even join in live to ask questions or make suggestions. I briefly thought about recording a long form video, but to me that just felt a bit lazy, whereas I can kind of justify a live stream because, as I said, people can hop in and ask questions and such. I don't want anyone to feel obligated to participate, of course. My goal is to more or less document the build process in a way that's a bit more frequent and accessible. I might even make recap videos of the streams as another form of update. These are just my thoughts. I haven't completely decided one way or the other. I'm still battling with some demons, as it were, and I haven't looked into how to stream just yet. As for my next project, I will most likely be working on some things in the Nether. I've already started, actually, by tearing down my Nether tunnel. Surprise! I realized I needed to move it to another side of my Nether hub so that things line up better with some of my future builds. I was expecting this to be a massive chore, but tearing down the tunnel only took about 3 hours. I threw on some YouTube videos and got it done pretty quick, and I expect the rebuild shouldn't be too difficult either. Anyway, I think that covers everything so far. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.